Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this and welcome to part 3 of a 5-part compensation forecast talk. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the top 5 trends that we want to plan out for 2023, top HR trends. We're going to be talking about transparency. And of course, joining me as always is John Andrews. Thank you so much for joining, John.
Good afternoon. Good to be here. Thanks, Jeff. So when we put our comp forecast together, when we looked at these trends, the idea of trying to boil that down into one presentation just wasn't going to happen. So we've broken it out into these series of concepts and themes, and hopefully that helps, our clients out there be able to pick and choose what's more relevant or meaningful for your organization. So thanks for joining us today, Jeff. Show him my little present I got for Jeff.
I don't know if you've noticed it. That's a quality piece right there.
I had that made for you. So
it's very special, near and dear to my heart.
So when Jeff tells you stories today, he's like, yeah, that's right, Jeff. That's right, Jeff. Oh, absolutely. It says there's no Jeff in team. That's a thing because when Jeff tells a story, it's about like how he saved the world personally.
Well, I mean, I've got so many of those stories.
I know.
It just happens that way.
But there, again, it's D. Hilton. It's a team. So calm down. So anyway, what's interesting is as we, put this presentation together, I mean, for the last 3 weeks, we've talked about salary transparency and the regulatory bodies coming in play for mandatory disclosures and things. So this is so current right now. There's a difference between what we mandatorily do and what we need to do for our culture. And obviously, we're going to follow the rules, whatever it takes. And I know some people have been very creative. Publish a salary range. It's $50,000 to $500,000, or
that's a range.
That's I'm following the spirit of the law, apparently. So what I liked about this is, I'm very intrigued in the last couple months on this Fishbowl app where people are telling, hey, I got this offer. What do you think? What about this culture? We're just sharing a ton of information with colleagues, people we don't know, and kind of peer to peer. But this statement was a beautiful way to start the conversation. So as a lady says, I know this is going to be unpopular, but just knowing what your base salary is isn't going to help you achieve pay parity at all. Because there's so many different buckets of pays, how we get paid and how we deliver pay. So if you look at a salary survey, if you look online, it's only half the picture. Mm-hmm. But I think what we leverage this trend in the credit union space is to say, how do we have the talk and how do we respond to some of these things that are 100% wrong in the marketplace? But I don't want to be defensive. I want to make people come to the same idea, aha moment of, yeah, I am paid pretty well. Or yeah, the benefits are really strong. And yeah, I want to stay here for longer than I thought. That's our ultimate goal. So this Fishbowl app is we're just sharing what numbers are. But, the idea is, think of it this way. Here's my litmus test. Shame on us if a single mom with 2 kids leaves for 50 cents more an hour to walk across the street, and then now they pay $600 more a month for healthcare. That's on us. She's not a job hopper. She's not a mercenary going after 50 cents more an hour. She is taking care of her family. And shame on us for not preparing her to make that decision in a better light.
Yep.
Simple as that. So I always look at this and say, yeah, you can't categorize or generalize a whole age group or demographic because there's going to be these folks that do get it. So what do we have to prepare against now? So saying nothing and just going on is not going to be an option because people will leave because there will be the perception of unfairness.
Yep.
Okay. But Salary.com, Glassdoor, PayScale, Indeed, Salary List, Salary Expert, Bureau of Labor Statistics all have really interesting data.
Very, very easy
they have
to
numbers.
Obtain. Interesting data.
It is pages upon pages of data.
Yeah.
But we have to teach not just our employee, and again, I'm picking on frontline managers, we have to tell them how to be good consumers of information. And how to ask the right questions and on and on.
You're exactly right. And I love that quote from the Fishbowl app as well, because it does talk about that there's so much more complexity than just here's the 50th percentile for this particular role. Okay, talk about the total compensation. Talk about the reward and recognition pieces of it. What else is happening there?
Yeah, exactly. So, and let's use a real good story there about when Bank of America says they're raising living wage to $21 an hour, what is it now?
Is it 23 or
let's call it 23 because
now,
by the time this is aired, it'll be more.
25.
But what's the backstory, what they're not telling you about that 23?
That's now a sales environment, and one mistake and you're on the road.
And I'm looking for 10% of the haircut of the workforce.
Absolutely.
If you're left, you're going to make 23, but you'll be doing 3 jobs. But what gets in the paper?
It's the amount. Look
What
at that.
gets in the ad?
That 50th percentile, or hey, the top you're going to be able to pay, and you can earn up to $24 an hour just by coming over to us.
I'm a great salesperson. The only number I saw was, I didn't see the up to.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I just saw the number, right?
There's no range. It's I'm going to get
And
this
we need
amount.
people like that. That's a sales competency. They're good. Tell me what to sell and I'll sell it. But that only means probably, 10 to 15% of the workforce is going to hit that number, the up to number.
Yep.
10 to 20% are going to wash out and not be there. I love the car dealer scenario where you have 10 car salesmen and the boss says, only 9 of you are going to be here next week. Well, who's that? 1 through 9 on sales, and number 10, I'm going to find another one. And then every week it doesn't matter because that's,
Yeah.
that's a sales job. So again, you need to be prepared against these types of sources on the internet, but you also need to be prepared for all the anecdotal stories that your employees are going to bring in.
And a lot of times it is very anecdotal. That's the thing. One person doing X, Y, and Z does not a market make.
No. So in 2023, kind of the issues that we're looking at right now, we're doing cross-functional, cross-platform delivery. It is making jobs different, okay? And we'll talk on a different program about the evolution of the technical competencies need. But for today, leave with this idea. There's not one job at a credit union that's the core competency plus technology equals the new job. And that technology piece, it doesn't necessarily have to be a premium when you price a job, because it will be the new normal. Mm-hmm. But the people that I'm looking at to hire are going to be from a different field. They're not going to come from the same pool that they were once coming from. But more importantly, I got to have a game plan to do the upward mobility, training existing employees to have and increase their technical competency to hit this equation of retail plus technology equals delivery today.
It's been years and years we've been talking about cross-training, cross-skilling, all that other kind of things. It's becoming even more important, more prevalent because, we're having to deal with that on a consistent basis.
And, during COVID, we had no clue, but we killed it. We did great. It was disruption. It was chaos. I mean, we couldn't go to Best Buy and buy 10 laptops. We were sourcing all over. We kept people safe. Everybody, really responded. We did great, seamless to the member. High fives for everyone. But now, 23 going forward, it's intentional.
Yep.
It's not going to be this one-time event. It's going to be every year. There's going to be something like this that makes that retail plus tech equals new delivery equation happen. And I just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But if I have that mindset and hire people that are going to be able to be that adaptive, I got a better chance of differentiating this delivery model from what's out there with competitors.
It's kind of the concept of this is the world as it exists today.
Yeah.
Pending any strange thing that, changes the world in its entirety, we've got a plan for here is now and moving forward from that point on.
Yeah.
No big shifts happening, but we have to move along with it.
So this idea of, we got to pay more attention to our values. I mean, that sounds like a cliche, but what I want to be able to do is walk the walk of we're the best place to work, or we care about you as an individual, or we love our members, or we're in the not-for-profit financial services space and we kill it. But you got to prove it. So when we look at values, the career and purpose for an employee, they ask the question, do I have a job today that I enjoy and does it connect with my values? We should do such a much better job as an industry touting that. I've seen some great websites where you make those connections. I'd like people to spend less time on being a employer of choice and win that award of getting awards in the community that says we really do make a difference with the underserved, the underbanked, or with specific things that we can attach and put manpower in and make a difference in the community. That's where that 20-something wants to work.
Yep. I mean, if you think about it, if you go to another credit union's website, how many of the exact same values that you have on your website are on that website?
Well,
how do you differentiate yourself, and that community piece that you're talking about is going to be extremely important, extremely valuable.
Well, when we do strategic planning facilitations, we say we're not going to spend time on a mission statement because who doesn't want to be the primary financial institution of every member? Raise your hand if that's not what you're here for, because it makes sense. Mom, Apple Pie, Chevrolet, and PFI, they all go together. But that doesn't help you walk the walk. So I'd much spend more time and say, prove it to me. So as I work with an employee that's going to make the decision, do I stay or still do I go? They're going to look at that value. Do I have purpose?
Yep.
And we need to tout.
I wouldn't taunt.
No taunting.
Let me taunt how good we are.
They get you 15, right, in the NFL? Yeah, we throw it. So help.
Got a flag in your pocket. You're good to go on this one.
Tout. We're going to tout the idea, And in Texas, we say it's not bragging if it's true, right?
Yeah.
We need to make sure that, because that's going to resonate with that worker that's on the fence, do I stay or go? But also that worker we're trying to recruit in. Yeah, that's a place. It's a cool place I want to be. We're making a difference. And now we have to have this work-life balance. So people are going to say, is my work so, all-encompassing? I can't have hobbies. I don't have friends. I can't have relationships. Well, this whole generation is trying to reconnect with that. So why are we looking at 3 and 4 day weekends and sabbaticals and things? Because people are trying to right-set what that is. And I'll keep saying it. It's not work-life balance. It's
life-work balance.
Because I don't control the narrative as an employer. I want you to. And so that's why we talk about life first, and then how do we fit work into it? You do that and walk the walk on that. That'll there'll be some appreciation and it'll resonate.
Absolutely.
Financial. Do I have the financial means to support myself? They do studies every year, like how much time do you worry about, can you pay your bills? And, how much of your day does that creep into your mindset? And there's a number, and that's why we talk so much about livable wages, right? And now we need to talk about livable wage plus impact of inflation, which we've talked about on an earlier program, is, if I can't get past that, I can't be engaged for work and do a good job for members, because it's always in the back of my head. So we have to help people overcome that.
Absolutely.
And I love the idea. I don't think I've ever told this story. So like when I was with D. Hilton for 25 years, instead of getting a watch, I got a all expense paid trip. Did I tell this before?
Yeah, I think we've heard this one before. I don't know if you've told it on a webinar before.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, you've heard. Act like you've never heard it before.
Oh, John, this is interesting. I am enthralled. Please tell me more.
We anyway, all expensive paid trip to be in the Michael Jordan fantasy basketball camp. So I played basketball, and all the coaches, the pro coaches in college, we tried out and we got picked. It was just a wonderful experience, because it was an experience, and it really, I love basketball, and it was great. But one of the best stories I heard was Hubie Brown. So he said before he had he was a NBA coach for a long time, very successful, and he every practice he made all his assistant coaches go talk to each player individually before the practice started, so where their head is. Are they worried about an endorsement deal, or a girlfriend broke up with them, or their mom wants a new house, or whatever it was? And then they'd all come back and they'd have a huddle and say, we get nothing done today. Mm-hmm. Nobody's here, so go home. And then they figured out what they could do. And I put that story in a credit union, and we do the work-life balance, and now we talk about inflation, and they're worried about paying bills. Where's your head today, Jeff? If it's too far in that direction, I'm not getting anything that's going to differentiate your service delivery to the member.
You're getting burnout. That's what you're getting.
Yeah, and then people just sign off.
Yeah,
and they check out. So again, that financial piece looks like it'd be a no-brainer, but it is a key component in this value structure. Do we care? And if you share that type of empathy with the employee, it's going to resonate, and you're going to understand those problems, and it's going to help you. It's going to determine the direction of your programs, quite frankly.
It drives engagement. It's as simple as that.
It does.
If a company you can actually say a company cares about you. And it says, as amorphous as a company is, but if you can actually establish that and truly have that driven down in the organization, it's amazing.
And I learned that from Michael Jordan basketball camp.
There you go. It's a magic experience.
The best part of that is obviously it was Las Vegas, and there was just tremendous spreads of food. So the first day before tryouts, or the day of tryouts, there was a big breakfast buffet. This guy literally slipped on a piece of bacon, tore his ACL,
No.
and he became a coach.
I see.
So his dream ended early because of bacon.
It's the basketball experience. You get the coach experience.
Yeah,
Very
it wasn't good. And the idea of physical, a value on where you are when it comes to do I have enough energy, those types of things. I think in COVID, right now we have 1 million people that have not come back to work in the United States because they're at risk and still worried about COVID. Mm-hmm. We've got 1 million people that have long COVID that have had health issues that have generated from a COVID exposure, and they can't come back. Okay, so you start to add those numbers up in addition to just normal folks, and we can see where the unemployment lies.
Yep.
So that health, physical piece is going to be a very important component. Community, how connected I am to the community. Do we have those programs where you will get paid time off to volunteer in the community? Now, the Fortune 500 world sometimes doesn't get that. You must do this, and you must do it by this time, and we must have 100% participation. You got it?
That's voluntold.
What's it called?
Voluntold. You're not volunteering. You're being voluntold.
Okay. Yeah. And no wonder everybody's griping, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is that we've got this great value proposition. We're doing a great job of the community. It's a natural fit if you're aligned with that. So we do want to have that sense of community. Right.
I mean, it goes back to the thing I always said, that people want to do good and they want to do it well.
Yeah,
so if you're in an
is to me. Talk about the well.
Yeah. Well, the whole concept is that you want to be able to actually do and make a change. So you want to be able to do good. You're working to make yourself feel good in that whole process, but you have an organization that helps you do something even bigger than you can do by yourself, and that means you're going to be able to do it very well.
Well, like personally for me, I've always been hesitant for Habitat for Humanity. I love the group. I can't nail. I can't.
You're the coach
anything.
in that case.
No, I don't even want to be a coach. But
get you a hard hat and a shovel to lean on.
Yeah, I will pick up trash and I'll do that. But I would have apprehension if today's John's on sheetrock duty.
Yeah, I mean, I did that at a previous employer. We rebuilt a battered women's house basically, and we went into the whole place. We tore out the carpets. I couldn't have done that myself.
Yeah.
So it was an opportunity for me to do some good, something that I believed in. I know that I was actually bringing some value and help to that situation, but we did it in such a bigger way, and it was amazing. Everybody left feeling so good about what we were able to accomplish in that process.
But did the boss make you do that, or was it optional?
Completely optional.
Yeah,
it was completely volunteered. I mean, I actually volunteered 3 days. I said, "Is it okay if I go back again to do it again?" They're like, "Absolutely, go back forth, and we'll take care of things here. You take care of that."
Yeah, that's okay. That makes a lot of sense.
It was huge.
And then our final value, this idea of, do you have the mental and emotional capacity today to do the job? Like the coach was saying, where's your head out? The same thing is, I don't know if resilience is a thing that we're teaching kids that well today. I mean, I'm a volunteer on an advisory board for a place here in Houston where they're teaching just those basic life skills to young kids. And what it's doing is there's going to be setbacks. You're going to be told no. This says you can't do it. And how do you overcome that?
Yeah.
And so those employees, I don't want them to give them any excuse that we don't have the tools to address that and give them tools to overcome it personally and move on. I mean, why do we pay in a pay scale? Why do we pay a contact center person more than a person that delivers services in person?
No, it's a lot easier to be very mean to somebody over the phone. Not for me, but
asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend.
I've heard you. You've been pretty mean to some people on the phone. But it's this idea is like, are you emotionally equipped? And so when there is a stressor at work, meaning, the mobile banking doesn't go well, or the credit card, transition doesn't go well. How are we making sure that people are okay during that time? Important. Mm-hmm. That mental health is going to be so important going forward. So the investment in those types of values, and again, I'm using this cliche of walk the walk, you demonstrate that to your workforce, I got a better shot of retaining them. Okay? Speaking of that, top retainers, this was a cool Korn Ferry study. They said, looking at people that, hey, I'm going to leave within a year, no matter what happens. I mean, they've, this is a survey. Employees said, I am leaving. And then the ones I plan to be here for a longer time, defined as greater than 5 years. Look at the delta between these sentences or these statements per se, and the ones that we're going to stay longer. Why did you leave earlier? Because of opportunities for learning and development. There was a perception of what?
Not going to be able to develop.
I'm as far as I can go. There's no room up. I don't like what I'm doing. So I need to go outside the organization. But the folks that are staying there more than 5 years, what are they saying?
They understand that they have potential career growth and they're going to be developed along the way.
That frontline manager, that management team has set the narrative that what do you want to do, and we're going to help you get there. Company is well managed. You can see that if there's a perception that that's not great at the top, I want to bail before, I'm the last person there.
Yep.
Company shows concern, you see the difference, trust in the senior leaders, great, and advancement opportunities.
And senior leader, I love the fact that is one of the top ones. It does demonstrate that you have to have a consistent message all the way from the top being pushed down through the entirety of the organization there. And if they start losing trust in the direction that the senior team is leading the organization, they're out.
These questions not written, do you like him or her? Yes, no.
Yeah.
It's not a popularity contest. It's different. The values you like in a senior leader are, if straight shooter, if things are bad, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This is what we're up against. Here's my game plan to get out of it. Come with me. I need volunteers. Let's do this. And when you put it in that scenario, people are going to respect that leader. Don't have all the answers. Who does? I don't know how it's going to. Of course, Jeff would have all the answers. I don't know how it's going to end up, but I think this is our game plan. Why do really successful entrepreneurs fail fast? Mm-hmm. Because if it's not working, they're not going to dump more money in it. They're just going to say, hey, that didn't work. Let's move on to the next thing.
Yep.
And so those things. So, the cliche I'm kind of talking about during our segment here is walk the walk and show that empathy for the employee, have a real consistent message, and you got a better shot of retaining them. So when we look at our next slide here, so what do you want to communicate? So when it comes to compensation, again, forget about what we're going to have to do regulatory. We still need a better game plan, whatever they want us to do or not do. But this is the kind of the sequence of where do you want to be on the spectrum. Every culture is different. There's no right answer here. Okay? So the minimal is here's your paycheck.
This is what you get paid.
Yeah, and I mean we've had clients where they'll have a quarterly or an annual incentive plan. They'll put it in the paycheck, but they won't say they did it. And some people don't even recognize that there was a different number. And that's like what a not the best return on the investment, right?
That's not quite paying for the performance. That's increasing their salary a certain amount.
And the idea that it happened recently where they overpaid the bonus, and then they said legally we can take it back. That's a tough situation to talk about. But what the CEO should have been upset about is no one mentioned it.
Nobody actually raised their hand to say.
Understood the formula. Am I getting screwed or I'm getting this windfall? It was just, okay, I cashed the check.
This seems the same.
The second one is how do you use market data to determine pay, that we're not just pulling numbers out of the thin air, that we actually have some type of, methodology to look what the market's doing. So you share with people, these are the sources and this is how we're comparing you to the market. Yeah. The third one is ranges. The idea is like, not only am I telling you what your salary is, where the market is, but I'm also saying here's your, what do you call it? Your horizontal.
Yeah, here's your growth potential. Here's your trajectory.
If you do this job, how long can you do this job and how will we recognize it? So if you're one of those earn up to whatever number, you can see what the up to number. Yeah. Then our next one is, the cultural piece of how we deliver pay. What's our strategy? Here's why we pay what we do. Okay. So, and then the final one is like everything knows about everybody.
Yeah. Total open salary kind of concept.
And you've heard about the HR person in Spite who got fired. She hit the button, and so she printed out on the printer what everybody made and what everybody's salary was, and then left. Yeah.
That's a good plan there.
That is a burning a bridge for sure. So we're not saying everybody should open salary. And I mean, some of the web stuff, what we have to prepare our counter is, there is more information about what a person makes at a company, or you share more with your friends. But the idea is not all it's not the whole picture, right?
Yep.
It's a total compensation. It's reward and recognition. Those values that we just read a couple slides ago, how we walk the walk on delivering an experience for the employee is so important. Mm-hmm. So we can't take. There's no right answer. Where you want to be on this piggy bank.
One right answer, though, is that with any of these stages, you're going to have communication. I mean, have your managers be able to understand and be able to communicate and articulate what particular transparency you decide to go with.
Yeah.
So if you're going to share the pay ranges, have them understand what pay ranges mean. Have them understand how to use them and how they're going to be used.
Yeah.
That way, it's not just this, we've shared the salary ranges, good luck, best of luck to you. Well, your managers can actually talk about that.
Let's give a real world example of that. Okay, so think of this idea of I tell you, a salary range is minimum is kind of a training wage apprentice. You're going to learn the job. Mm-hmm. Midpoint is total skill acquisition. You really know the stuff as it's defined in the job description. Your boss would give you really good evaluations. And then max is the most we're willing to pay for that specific competency. With the cliche being, people don't have. Jobs have limited value, but people have unlimited value.
Yep. People have unlimited earning potential. Jobs don't.
Thank you. That's so much better than I tried to say it. Thank you. So
I'm on your team, John. I'm on your team.
Yeah. Well, we'll see about that. But you're in year 3 of being a member service rep, and somebody's told you midpoint is total skill acquisition. You've been doing it 3 years. What's going on in your mind?
Where am I?
I mean, I'm not competent.
Yep.
And I ask a CEO the same question. Would you be comfortable with a person 3 years into their MSR career not being competent? And you know what the answer is? 100%.
Absolutely not.
What's wrong with them? Yeah. Why are we not, why aren't they getting remedial training? Why are they still here? Whatever the spectrum. But sometimes our salary ranges communicate a different picture of or what the perception of our salary ranges communicate is way different than what reality or what we're trying to do.
Absolutely.
Right? Somebody's maxed out. And we say no raise. There's a lot of different ways to present that argument too, right? Mm-hmm. So, again, that's what I'm kind of worried about when it comes to pick that transparency spot, and then fill in all the blanks of what that means and what it doesn't mean.
Yeah.
And more importantly, as you're doing that internally, being prepared for the external onslaught of information that, at best, we can call misinformation. At worst, we can say a total missing the boat of how we deliver pay and reward and recognition.
I mean, the one degree of the transparency is the concept of the communication piece that comes along with it.
So important.
If you don't communicate a part of that narrative gets filled in for you. And we talked about that earlier, being so important that you are leading the narrative and pushing that, driving that forward.
This has to be you push.
Yeah.
And, the difficulty of being a frontline manager is you're telling your buddies what to do because you were promoted from within, and the thinking, and you want to conflict avoid, and you don't want to necessarily talk about it, but I need you to be engaged. And it's us versus them. You're part of them.
Yep.
So the idea is when we talk about transparency, we're making those managers accountable. I love to see in an appraisal how well the appraiser appraises the appraisee, and how well they deliver messages from the corporate message on how we deliver pay. I want there to be some consequence if it's not delivered in a uniform manner, because you can pick, when you do turnover statistics and you look for patterns, and again, people leave. What kind of bosses?
Micromanaging and all kinds of stuff. Bosses.
All the things that make you don't align with those values. That's the person I'm leaving. I'm not leaving for $1 more an hour.
And this kind of goes back to, again, making sure that you have that consistent message. Yeah. Because if the managers start talking about, it's the upper management that's doing this, you're going to, going back to that slide that we talked about a little while ago, where one of the main drivers for people leaving was loss of trust in the senior management team. Yeah. So if your managers are not prepared to have these conversations, they say, well, I would have done this, but I couldn't because it was senior management. You're eroding that trust away as well.
You've just totally just
undermine the whole thing.
Undermine is the word.
Yep.
So things we really want to work with frontline managers that are consistent is make the talking points personal. If I know Jeff and I know what he's motivated by, just like David Hilton knew that I love basketball, he found a recognition tool instead of a watch. Mm-hmm. I have 4 watches at home, by the way. and none of the batteries work, and I don't wear watches, and that's not the thing to give me.
That's the first time I've heard about those watches. This is the second time I've heard this story, so something is definitely more important.
It's in the top right drawer. if you want to call your wife, and I'll wear my hat next time. I was a world champion. Jim Gray.
So you did win the whole thing.
Yeah, champion. Jim Gray interviewed me, and all I could do was I blew it. I blew it on national TV. I know.
I'm going to Disney World.
Sure. You think of that now.
It's the perfect line.
I had nothing. And they play back the tape. Well, that's pretty embarrassing.
Have you ever seen the movie Bedazzled?
Yes.
With Brendan Fraser when he's doing the interview as the basketball player. We did good. We gave 100%. That's all I can see right now.
All the cliches?
All the cliches of just saying nothing at all.
Okay. We're 28 minutes of programming. You had your first obscure movie reference. Thanks for...
I'm on board here. I'm in the game.
Thanks for keeping us that long. But let's go back. But the point of making it personal, if I know you're motivated by money or you're I really have some good ideas to change the company. Those 20-somethings, going to rule the world and have that. Accommodate it. Figure out a way to channel that. So if they want more money, look, if you're motivated, we have sales opportunities in these other departments. You could do that, but let me tell you what it's going to take to be successful. And they either go, yeah, that's awesome, or they go, yuck.
Yep.
But at least you're making an accommodation for what motivates that person.
And I remember there was one time that I had a performance review, and I was so just disillusioned by this whole process because in performance review they said,
"Was it from me?"
No, it was definitely not from you. So we're good. We're good.
Okay.
I was on fire. It was one of my early jobs. I was driven. I was this, that, and the other. And I remember this so distinctly. They said, "Jeff, you got to stop thinking like a CEO. You're not there." So we need you to focus on the job at hand, not talking about all this strategy and stuff like that. You got to step away. You're not a CEO. And I remember I'm like, was that a bad thing? Should I not have been thinking this strategic, hey, here's how we could actually improve some things, or here's how the direction we go. Rather than tapping into that energy, I was done at that point. It was amazing.
I've never heard that story. That is a great story.
Yeah. Stop thinking like a CEO because you're not.
Yeah, but it's this idea of I want to say the highest scores on a performance management scale for the people that are thinking like a CEO. Yeah. The bottom level of performance is you do your job.
Do your job, exactly.
The second level, stay in my lane. The second level is you understand how I get evaluated. So you're gonna, hey John, I know you get in trouble if I'm gonna help you do that. Yes, and then the third level, the highest level, I'm gonna save it for is you get your job, you get my job, and you get what we're trying to do strategically.
Mm-hmm. You understand it from a big level
and
perspective.
When there's 10 people in an department, you're not going 10 for 10.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a great story.
Yeah. I remember that one because it was the moment that I said, nope, that's it. I'm done here because I have kind of going back to this, I have no development capabilities. They've already made up their mind about certain situations. That's it.
And you get evaluated on how many widgets you made today.
Pretty much.
And then guess what? Tomorrow you get measured on
how many widgets you made today.
Your widget total, and probably if you didn't lose a finger. Yeah. That's probably important too.
A very important aspect on that one.
But the idea of that having on our list here, where we're looking at the idea of things that you can do to make that transparency work. Make sure you have a reality check, and remember, I've told this story. I think we got time. I'm gonna tell that. One more story? Okay. Remember my daughter at her company, her boss was the same age and actually had come from a different field. And like my daughter had to teach her boss how to do her job so she could tell my daughter that she was not doing her job or whatever. One of those classic situations. She wasn't happy with her raise and she goes, I thought I was going to do better than that. And she says, and her boss had not been trained on any of this, right? So her first thing that comes off in her engineering mind was, well, you're at the bottom of your range, so there's nowhere but up. Strike one.
Look at all the room to grow you have.
So I've done this for 4 years. Everybody's told me I'm doing a job, and you're telling me I've got a lot of runway. That doesn't help me today, okay? And then they keep talking back. Well, why is that disappointing to you or whatever they're saying? And then she goes, oh, wait, another light bulb goes off. And we're just going to move the ranges 4%, so you're going to be even further away from your goal. Steve, right, too.
So we're going to give you a small raise because we have guaranteed we're not going to pay anybody less than this in this particular position.
That was the message, maybe not the intent. So this idea of making sure frontline people or frontline managers have a fact sheet of things that anticipating, and then with my daughter's story, because I'm an HR person and she calls me with this concern, I said, well, go to the intranet and look at there's a site that says frequently asked questions during compensation discussions. I said, oh, number 3, pick that one's a good one. Why do you get paid? And she hits the button and it says, error 404, and you do not have access to this information.
Not allowed to read this.
That was strike 3. So, does she look for another job? Probably she looks for another job just being beaten down and disappointed in those 3 areas.
Yeah, I mean, that's immediately one interaction essentially disenfranchises a probably very good employee almost instantaneously.
My daughter, super employee.
I mean, you can't go wrong one way or the other.
With an Andrews, of course you can't go wrong.
Exactly.
But
I was talking about me, John. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
Remember that
was a rock. Sorry. The rock kids, right.
I was a very good employee and I got, just.
But let's go on the record today. I will be working for a rock one day.
Yeah, you think
Not
so?
you.
Not me.
A kid rock.
You're working on a rock.
Yeah, something like that. So getting that manager prepared to have the discussions, did she had access, the manager had access to those questions that employees were going to talk about. Did she look at it?
Zero time. She probably didn't even know they existed, to be honest with you.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Just because you have it doesn't mean people are using it, on and on and on. The idea when we have new hires and setting the expectation of how we're going to deliver pay, because people want to know what's in it for me. Mm-hmm. So if it's whether frontline manager, HR, it's in materials about how we define success here is important. Guess what I can tie that to? If I put it on some type of promotional tape or some type of training material, I can tie corporate values, what it means to work here, to how we define success, and they're going to line up. Mm-hmm. I don't want somebody waiting 2 years to figure out that the light bulb goes off and they're connected. Day 1.
Yep.
In fact, I want it to be day -1 because I want it
part of the onboarding.
Once they said they're here, I want them to be, they're part of the culture.
Yeah.
Time's ticking to say what's going to make you special, what's going to make you successful, how you're going to contribute, and how we're going to do the awesome thing for this community. That does not start the first day like, well, here's the bathroom and, here's some dental forms to fill out, right? Mm-hmm. That's our goal. And then finally, I need everybody to understand how we benchmark jobs, who you're compared to against. In the D. Hilton strategy, obviously, we're looking at skill sets, not job titles. We're looking at different industries because we want to take it from the employee's perspective. I want to share that with folks.
Yep.
I want to know that we spend a ton of time making sure that we are fair and equitable, and sometimes we fall short at the finish line here, and then it's perceived as not fair.
Yeah. And I mean, every one of my clients that I talk to, I tell them that if a employee comes to you and asks about that, we partner with an independent third party that judges it, and we talk about the process, how that goes. And feel free to share that with them and let them know that, yes, they are on an individual role level being evaluated against the market. And here's where we've come to a conclusion of fair line in the sand. This is how we want to pay for this role. You want more? Let's talk about your career progression from that point.
Yeah. And again, that flexibility, if you listen to what's going to motivate them, and if Mr. I want to be CEO one day, that can be easily leveraged. Mm-hmm. I'm going to let you sit on committees. I'm going to go work with some other departments. If you want this job, they're going to look at your resume and say, oh, they're not right, but they're going to perceive it. Oh, you're not strong in the back office. So I'm going to give you some opportunities to interact with those folks. Number 1, to see if is the grass really greener? Because sometimes it's no.
I don't want that job.
Wow, I can see the delta between where I am and where I need to be. And if that motivates you, I'll get you there faster.
Exactly.
Right?
You've created the career development based off of something that inspired or was inspiring to that person. And it cost you next to nothing to be able to set them in on those kind of pieces.
It's worth the time. And I'm not making you do this. I'm listening and giving you kind of a self-directed path.
And it's
right?
Active listening. What I'm hearing you say is repeat back what? Make sure you understand exactly what they meant. And then you say, let's talk about what we can do from that point.
You do that all the time to me.
I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean that I do that all the time to you?
Stop it.
That's called caboosing. You always ask their question back at them.
Okay. Thank you. Taking notes.
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, that psychology degree is paying off there.
So, wrapping up our program today is transparency. we got to make sure this is a business issue, not an HR issue. We can't just dump all this on HR folks, okay? So for the credit union, kind of the enterprise-wide, we want to be a commitment to being accountable. We want to make sure we celebrate achievements. We want to celebrate admit when we don't know where it's going, because that's the type of leader I want to follow. I don't have all the answers. I know together we're going to figure it out. We've done it in the past. I want to go through a wall for that person. Okay. For the leaders, whether they're mid-manager or frontline manager, the idea is that we've got to think credit union wide and not just what's in it for me and my group. Thank God for accounting. They really screwed up, on our goals. They'll be talking about them and not us, that type of thing. And we need agile and fluid teams. And I know that sounds like cliche today, but just put all the pieces together. A 4-year strategic plan's got to be done in 2 years now. The idea of a member or consumer's conception of a fast turnaround time is going to get faster. People want to use different technologies. Whatever it is, we have to be really adaptable. And so the employees that I want to bring into, that's why I said it earlier, it's core competency plus technology equals the worker of the future. And having that technology bent to no matter what it is, can have the skill set to accumulate the knowledge and then be able to deliver with it. And then for employees, they have a piece of the puzzle here to be successful as a whole credit union. It's the opportunities to make your own decisions. I'm not going to force you to do anything. Was it voluntold? I learned, it's like all these things I learned today from you. Voluntold. And then the idea is that if you don't have a clear purpose, and how you contribute success. Let me give you one quick story on that. Okay. I used to do a ton of organizational reviews, and in that we would do a bottom-up strategy. So we would talk to, whatever salary range is the lowest, love to talk to those folks. So you talk to a janitor. You say, first of all, when a consultant in a blue suit talks to a janitor, the connotation is someone's getting fired. And it's not true, but you watch enough movies.
The Office Space action here.
Yeah, like,
can you tell me what you do on a day-to-day?
Yeah, here's a blank sheet of paper, Mr. Janitor. A pie chart. Tell me how you spend your day. I told clients from day one, I'm never doing that. I'm not an efficiency expert, and I think, if I fix an efficiency issue at this level, I come back in a year, I got just another efficiency issue in another area. It's top down, and it always is. But back then, bottom up. So literally one person said, I don't know why you're talking to me. I'm just a janitor. And what word bothered me, Jeff?
Just.
Why?
Well, they felt like they were not going to go anywhere else. That's where they were and who they were, and that's who they personally accepted that's the situation. And
then I took it the next step. I said, you're just a janitor? So what happens when a blizzard comes through on a Tuesday and you're got to have the doors open at 9 o'clock? What does just the janitor have to do? Well, the night before, they have to watch the weather to see if they need to get plows ready to go. And I built this case. I go, don't ever say you're just a janitor again, because the member experience starts with you having a clean parking lot. We don't get slip and fall suits.
Yeah.
Mom can get the 2 kids out of the back door because she had to come sign a paper. So, she doesn't do it or blows it off because it was inconvenient. So just a janitor is kind of an important job in our value chain of creating a differentiation experience for members.
And see, I think that's a perfect example of the why. Nobody told that individual why it is so important that they do what they do on a day-to-day basis.
And the metrics are, clean the boiler, mop the floor.
There's a check.
It's check the box. And nobody ever aligned that with the experience.
That's amazing.
And the other story I love is that, that show where Undercover Boss?
Yep.
So there was a Popeye's chicken someplace where they interviewed the boss, went under, and there was just a janitor. And the janitor bought his own cleaning supplies because the Popeye provided stuff didn't do a good enough job in his mind. So do I give that person a 5 out of 5? 100%.
Absolutely.
Did he read any research that says the customer experience for Popeye, they want clean restrooms, fast, and they don't want to fall on whatever? They didn't read any of that. That was just intuitive. That's a guy that I want to hire, and I want here for a long time.
Some people say, "Oh, that's common sense," but if common were so common, everybody would have it.
How much you think that janitor makes? Just that janitor? Not enough.
Not enough.
That's like, the Chris Rock. I would pay you less than minimum wage if I could.
If it was not illegal.
If it wasn't illegal, I'd pay you less. That's the type of job skill we're talking about here. Yet that person totally get the whole value chain of how people go to Popeyes instead of KFC.
Yeah. And I mean, imagine the engagement that you get from being able to actually show somebody that. I mean, it goes back to that old story that they had where the two guys working on an airplane, both of them tightening the rivets, putting rivets on the airplane, doing the exact same thing. One guy is engaged and involved. The other is just doing their job. They ask, hey, what are you doing? And they say, well, I'm putting on this bolt and tightening it up and making this fast. And there you go, bolting it down. And they go and talk to the other guy and they say, what are you doing? He says, well, I'm building an airplane. One bolt. That's all he's doing is tightening that. But the whole concept of he's doing something bigger. Yeah. There's doing something that's involved and engaged in versus I'm doing a task, I'm doing a thing, and that's it.
And that can be self-motivation, but more than likely that was somebody at a certain level said, here's my vision, here's what we're going to do together, and here's why your role is so critical.
And it's not just you're doing this one piece of it. Let's look at the whole thing of what you're putting together. And that's a big portion of engagement. Understanding the why, what you're doing, and what you do on a day-to-day basis matters and makes an impact. That's amazing.
I think you've graduated to a neat T-shirt, like just with a little arrow through it or a little cross. I'm getting you a a new shirt. You graduated.
All right.
You sold me.
Upgraded. 2 stars.
Congratulations.
Do I get 2 stars now? Is that
No, don't get too crazy. Don't get too crazy. Anyway, that wraps up today. So thanks, guys. I know we digress a little bit, but I think it's really powerful to tell some of these stories and how we can make it real and how we can make it practical, because we throw a lot of research at you and it's 64% versus 62, but how do we integrate it? So, 30 plus years of seeing good, bad, and ugly. We want to share that with you guys. So thanks for the time today. And thanks, Jeff, for moderating. And I learned some things. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for letting me join. I appreciate it. This is what we like to do with these kind of talks is to be able to take the data, turn it into information, and then hopefully you'll be able to make some strategic business decisions and actions moving forward. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Okay. See you soon.
Thanks for tuning in. All the best.
Bye-bye.